turns out that the Acolyte was an even bigger failure than we previously knew because they spent way more money on it than was previously reported. Now, I want to give a big shout out to the guys over at That Park Place, Dubdy Dubs, and Jonas J. Campbell. They are doing the Lord's work over there because if you guys are interested in Disney news, Star Wars, Marvel, Pixar, all that stuff, thatparkplace.com is the place to go for all the best news and scoops and analysis with that company. And they have this headline here where basically, I believe Valiant Renegade and Jonas J. Campbell dove into a recent tax filing from the company that produced The Acolyte, the production company, I should say. And it turns out that the real cost of the Acolyte production was actually $230 million US dollars, as opposed to the reported $180 US million dollars. And again, if you guys want to dive into this stuff, highly recommend you read the article. It is linked in the description of this channel. Now, one thing that I do want to point out, and in Valiant Renegade's video that he did with Jonas J. Campbell, they actually dive into this, is that the reason that Lucasfilm and Disney shoot so much stuff over in the UK and Pinewood Studios and things of that nature is because the UK has a tax credit for film production, and you can basically make back at least 25% of your budget after taxes. And so the real cost of the Acolyte was $230 million, but if you deduct the amount of money that they saved by shooting over in the UK, it does work out to roughly around $180 million. So there's a little bit of wiggle room there, but the idea here is that the actual cost of this horrible, horrible Star Wars TV show, which looked like it was shot on an iPhone in someone's garage, was close to the cost of an entire AAA movie, which I just find crazy.
Kaliki Oki having kind of hammers it in this chat. It's a conversion issue.
Well, I don't think it's so much of a conversion. Like if it cost them $230 million, once you deduct the money that they got back from the UK government, which works out to roughly 25% of what they spent, it does come into around 180 million US dollars, I believe.
Here's all I know is that a Spirit Halloween store got a really good deal on the cost for this thing. So
yeah, but as the only Brit on the panel, I want to throw this to Mr. Random Film Talk. Mr. Random, what's your take on how much the Acolyte cost, UK film credits in general? Do you know anything about those?
I don't know, but I mean, basically from what you're saying there is it's the difference between how much it cost them versus how much they spent on it.
Yes.
Which, I mean, yeah, honestly, my view on that with the Acolyte is pretty much the same as my view on Rings of Power. There is no way that money ended up on screen, or there's no way that all of that money ended up on screen. I don't know how you can possibly spend, like this article says, $231 million, however much that is per episode, $28 million per episode on something that comes out looking as amateurish as the Acolyte. It's ridiculous.
That's almost 3 Godzilla -1s.
Yeah.
Has there been any islands bought by some obscure Lucasfilm executive?
Here's the thing: is we already kind of have an answer as to where this money goes. We've been getting the answer subtly through various means. I can't remember the director, but the guy who did the Roadhouse movie recently,
Doug Liman.
Doug Liman. He's one of the people kind of keyed us in this. We've talked to Gary Tunnicliffe, who told us this is the same basic thing that used to happen back in the day when they would do this stuff. Basically, when a studio gives the money to a production company or a production to make the movie, a lot of times a good portion of it, up to half of it sometimes, goes right into the pockets of the producers for the cost of basically doing business or whatever you want to call it. And that's kind of what happened, like specifically with that Roadhouse movie. They were like, they were going to take away our money, but we got $100 million up front. In the Apple movie, the one Argyle, same kind of thing. They got $100 million for nothing. The movie only cost $100 million to make. The other $100 million was just the cost of doing business, right? Like that's where this money is going. So I'm sure you check with all these producers and stuff like that, production companies, houses, places, things like that. That's where this money's going. But I got to ask Random how he feels about his tax money going to fund some of this shit.
Yeah, pretty bad. I can't say that I like paying taxes, but obviously, I do it. It's a fact of life.
Aren't you glad you could help sustain productions like this?
Yeah, I mean, I guess so. I don't know. I'd rather, well, I guess I'd rather it go on something like this than something just utterly insane that is not, because at least some people enjoyed The Acolyte. It is entertainment. It's not, spending it on, like, I don't know, building bombs to go and bomb people or something like that. I guess I would rather it be spent on a TV show.
Or like here in the States, our tax dollars go to, transition people in state prisons. And so,
Right.
Well, I mean, the way I understand it, Tom, is basically the money that they get on credits is basically the money that they paid into the system that the government then pays them back.
Yeah.
So like, it's not like British citizens are being like bilked for Disney's failures. It's
not like the BBC or anything like that.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Not like the BBC.
I'm guessing it's similar to, like, because when Peter Jackson made the Lord of the Rings trilogy, part of the reason why he filmed that in New Zealand is, one, for all of the locations and everything, but also there was a tax incentive to do so. And then the same thing happened with the Hobbit movies. And I'm guessing it's a similar thing to what we're talking about here with The Acolyte, where it is, I guess he's incentivized to do it because, I mean, the example of the Lord of the Rings, look at what that has done to tourism in New Zealand. Whether that will happen with The Acolyte in the UK.
Disney just does it in Lucasfilm because it's cheaper there. That's the main thing. But
they have that long history at Pinewood Studios with filming Star Wars stuff there. But in addition to that, basically, they have to employ a certain amount of UK film crews and stuff like that in order to be eligible for these tax credits. So it helps ensure, like, local jobs and things of that nature in the UK. So there's a lot of benefit for the UK to basically incentivize Disney and Lucasfilm to, like, shoot over there. And a lot of UK union people are very good at what they do. They've been doing it for a long time. That's all they do. And so, like, it's easy to crew up out there for a lot of film productions. But Odin, one of the interesting things about this Park Place report and the Valiant Renegade YouTube video where he breaks this down is that they actually go through the income filing for Blue Stockings Limited, which is basically the UK shell company that they produce the Acolyte through. And basically they say that they made back about £35 million in tax credits after, spending a bunch of money to actually, like, film the Acolyte. So I can see where, like, there's a lot of confusion as to, like, what the exchange rate was when they were, like, actually spending the money versus what it is now, and trying to figure out, like, what the conversion rate is from pounds to dollars. They don't actually
convert the money, though. That's the other thing people need to understand. It's not like they're taking U.S. money, moving it over to Britain or the UK or whatever, and converting it there. It's basically they have set up shit there already. That's kind of what it's all about. So
yeah, like they go through UK banks to finance
exactly.
Bunch of the stuff
It's all over there. So you got to keep that in mind too. So it's not like
they've been filming Star Wars at Pinewood since day one, right? So
yeah, but the thing is like they take out loans from UK banks to finance this stuff that they then have to, like, pay back. So because the pound sterling is basically, like, at a higher conversion rate than the US dollar, it does cost them more to shoot over there, but then they get, at least 25% of that back after taxes. So it can be a good incentive for them. But I want to get Odin's take on this. Odin, when you're looking at these numbers, what does this tell you about the Acolyte? Because it actually cost way more in practical application than it did after, like, they got these rebates and stuff like that.
Oh, absolutely. It's like a double-edged sword for me when it comes to this, because one, I love that they are filming in the UK, because one of the rules is that you have to, in your filing of your taxes, it's public information basically. And so therefore we get to see how much Disney is actually spending on these projects. And I think that is a beautiful thing, because they will have these projections and these claims, and then all of a sudden the truth will come out. And there are some really good people out there that, hunt down the names of their production companies and are able to find out the actual numbers. I'm just reminded again about how The Rise of Skywalker cost $416 million production budget alone before even spending anything on marketing. That's the reason why, even though that film made $1 billion at the box office, it still lost well over $120 million by the end of its run because of how much money they wasted on that project. So I'm not really surprised to hear that this show cost $230 million. However, it is surprising to the point that this show, this series cost about as much as Rogue One did as an individual film before marketing. About $232 million or so. So this is, I think, the ultimate reminder that Kathleen Kennedy is the only reason why any of this stuff is still happening. Because you just look at how much money they are wasting. They overspend on everything they do. And again, Disney in general has a spending problem. And that's the reason why you see all of their animated films tend to start at a minimum of like $150 million to $200 million when you could easily do the same quality, if not better, even quality product, doing it much, much cheaper, doing it in different locations, right? But they just want to spend all the money, and maybe it's a pride thing, maybe it's because we're Disney and so the product has to be this expensive, it has to be the highest quality of all. But if you don't have good content, if you don't have good writing, none of that really matters. And so they just piss away all this money. Disney is, I think, the worst example of this fact, because they have been losing a lot more money consistently for a lot longer than even the likes of Marvel, who only more recently have been in that money loss game. But this is just, again, a reminder that the only reason why Kathleen Kennedy still has a job is clearly because she has enough power and influence to be able to stave off any attempt to push her out.
So, Mr. Butters, in this article here, it says, according to UK tax filings, Lucasfilm has already spent at least 362 million American dollars making Andor, a show that very few watch, but many see as the best Disney Plus Star Wars. Outside of Star Wars, Kathleen Kennedy has spent almost $170 million making a Willow reboot for Disney Plus, only for Bob Iger to wipe the show from existence to take the expense as a complete loss for tax purposes.
That might be the only show that made him any money at the end of the day, if you think about it, just because of the tax break from shelving it.
Yep. I think it says that it was like a 500 million. No. Anyway,
it didn't really make them money, but it didn't lose it as much as what I meant. Yeah,
just a lot of money. A lot of money.
Yeah. So, Mr. Butters, it seems like Lucasfilm keeps throwing good money after bad when it comes to these awful Star Wars shows. What's your take on the Acolytes costing way more than was originally reported?
My take? I don't have a take. What? Come on. We ask a take on what
he's not feeling good. Would you leave him alone?
Yeah, they waste a lot of money at Lucasfilm. That's my take. They waste a lot of money. And I wish they would at least, if they're going to waste the money, they should at least try to make something good that people actually want to see.
Who was it?
So
Rosario Dawson or not Rosario Dawson? What's her face? The other chick on the Mandalorian, who said that basically what they get for
Katie Sackhoff?
Katie Sackhoff, yeah. Basically said what they get for catering on the set of Star Wars is what they spent for their entire budget on
on Battlestar. Yeah.
On Battlestar, yeah.
Yeah,
I don't think she's kidding.
Yeah, I don't either. I don't know what to say to these things, man. It's just money that is just unimaginable to normal humans. It's just paper. It's nothing. I don't understand how they can justify wasting this much money. It's insane. So I can't relate.
Well, I think they look at it as political contributions. Actually, I feel like these are just like under the table propaganda expenses, right? Like they don't honestly care if it succeeds or not. They just want to get their message out there, right?
Right. These are people that do all this kind of stuff that just don't have any respect for the kind of money that they're dealing with. It's these people that I watch down here on the Las Vegas Strip gamble millions of dollars away like it's toilet paper. They just don't. It's a different way of thinking about things that I cannot comprehend. So, and
it's a lot of money without any moral structure either. And I think that's the other problem, right? Is that you have these multi-million, multi-billion-dollar people, corporations, etc., and they are creating product without any actual soul, any actual basis in morality. That's why you typically see them pushing these agenda-driven films, where even if it's not necessarily political, it's at least nihilistic in its thinking, and it leads to the things like, hey, the Star Wars Jedi are not actually the good guys. There is no such thing as good, and evil is just a matter of perspective. And so that's what makes it even worse, though. It's rich people with an agenda to push their own nihilistic depression onto everybody else.
Well, one person who definitely benefited from the Acolyte, Tom, is Amanda Stenberg, or Mandela Stenberg, excuse me. But basically, like, you know, on Twitter recently, like she was at some type of event where she was basically showing off her boobies, and she got like a lot of attention from that. And if she hadn't done the Acolyte, nobody would care. But she took advantage of the controversy. She did her diss track. She, you know, came out as non-binary or whatever the heck she is.
She did?
Queer. Yeah.
What? Oh yeah.
Aren't they all baseline bi now?
Yeah, something like that. But or
God,
you know, at least forward-facing bi. You know, just I say it, but I don't really practice it. But like when it comes to this girl, it's like she comes from a very rich family. Her dad is like a very wealthy Jewish guy who got her roles in Hollywood and stuff like that. But she constantly goes out there.
Jewish and black.
Wow.
Yeah, she goes out there and accuses people of racism and toxicity and all this stuff. And this has really raised her profile, don't you think? So wouldn't you say the Acolyte actually helped her career?
I mean, in a way, yes. Like, I mean, we're at a point now, and I've brought this up before, where doing anything bad does not kill your career as an actor or director now in most cases. In most cases. Now, there are exceptions to the rule, but I mean, it used to be you'd throw out a stinker or two as an actor and a director, writer, whatever, your career's over, right? They only give you so many shots. It's like 2-3 strikes and you're out. Nowadays, you can deliver garbage after garbage after garbage after garbage, blame everybody else, and you're fine. And that's what, I mean, she kind of falls in that same category that Vince Vaughn was talking about with producers, where, you know, he's like, they could sit there and go, well, you can't blame me because I did IP, right? So blame IP. In this case, like, yeah, it's the same thing. It's even like when, not to go hit on Daisy Ridley some more, like we were earlier talking about her, but like when she was going around saying, I haven't got a career anymore because of Star Wars. It's like, bitch, you're working more than most women do in Hollywood.
She didn't have a career before Star Wars. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, not only that, but you look at her career, she was even making movies still during COVID when a lot of actors weren't. So it's like, I don't know what the hell she's talking about. And I mean, so here again, you got another person who benefited from controversy. I mean, honestly, she's one of the few I've seen take advantage of it. What's her face who played Rose Tico? She kind of, you know, retracted it.
Kelly Marie Tran.
Kelly Marie Tran feels like she kind of, you know, pulled away from the spotlight after all this stuff.
Well, it was all this toxic fans that attacked her.
Yeah, we know it, that, we know what she was talking about. If you actually read the, and I know what you're getting at, but
oh boy,
if you actually read what she's saying it was Hollywood that made her feel that way, not the people. But yeah. So at the end of the day, I agree with you. I think she's taking advantage of the situation, just like a lot of these folks have over the past couple of years. I mean, even my former writing partner used to say the same kind of stuff about he just happens to be black. And used to say a lot of the same kind of crap about a lot of people, especially people like Ava DuVernay and people like that who were taking advantage of the system and the situation, right? Like, oh yeah, there's systematic racism, all right, against white people. And that's basically where we're at on that respect. But no, at the end of the day, she spun this into the victim narrative that it is, just like everybody else has that's benefited from it. She's benefited more than Moses Ingram has so far. I mean, I don't understand also where people feel like just running around in their underwear is a fashion statement lately, but whatever.